All right, we've got a fun one. We're catching up with Lou Maggio today, the guy behind Venus Swimwear, the man who discovered Brooke Burke, along with Paul, before the world had any idea who she was. Lou shares what made Brooke Burke stand out and what was her it factor. Joining me are former fellow Wild On producers, Paul Haddad, Cary Millman, and me, Sean Olsen. We'll look back at those early Wild On days when we were basically just building the airplane as we flew it. So buckle up, get your seats and your trays in the upright position, because we're about to get wild, boys.
It's going to be a bumpy ride.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is.
A lot of turbulence.
It is.
A lot of fun, though.
This is the untold story. The behind-the-scenes mayhem, the chaos the viewers never saw, and the unforgettable tale of the most infamous travel show of its time. This is the wildest show on earth, the rise and fall of Wild On.
All right, so I'm going to do a little table setting for you guys. All right?
Yeah.
By 1999, E! Entertainment figured out they had a bona fide hit on their hands with Wild On. The series was finding an audience behind the strong lead-in from The Howard Stern Show. You guys remember that? The combination of Wild On's sun-soaked escapism and bikini-clad girls paired perfectly with Stern's risque celebrity interviews and nudity-driven nudity. It brought a massive male audience to the network that was known primarily for red carpet coverage and celebrity fashion. The network brass wanted more episodes, and more episodes meant more staff and more beautiful wild weirdness. But what truly launched Wild On into the pop culture stratosphere was the arrival of a new host. All right. Does this all resonate with you? The year is 1999. So I've got a funny story, actually.
Yeah.
So I am working the True Hollywood Story at the time, and I was doing it for about 2 years, and I was getting miserable. And I was just wrapping up the James Stacey True Hollywood Story. And James Stacey at the time was, he was kind of like the 60s version of Jan Michael Vincent, like a good-looking guy.
Yeah.
But he's on Mulholland Drive riding his motorcycle, and he gets clipped, severs his left arm and left leg off, ridden to a wheelchair. He gets accused of inappropriate behavior with some underage girls, and he tries to throw himself off a cliff in Hawaii. It's a real depressing Hollywood story. And then, you do a bunch of these, and you're just like, I don't know, what's the story, And so I'm in an elevator one day, in walks Cary, I think Heather, and the whole Wild On crew. And so I'm not part of the group yet. And you guys walk in, and you guys are talking about where you're going to go. You're like, oh, no way, I'm going on that trip, I'm just in the back of the elevator, on my way to transcribe something. Remember the transcribing stations?
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, man, I got to get over to that place, And, and so eventually Larissa, at the time, who was working as a producer, I convinced her, I'm like, put in the good word. And Wild On was expanding. And, the show was becoming a hit. It was finding a place. Every episode was a number one.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. Cary and I were in the international department of E! It's because E! had a really big reach internationally, especially Latin America. And it was great because just to set the table at E! also, this, most of the employees in the 90s were staff.
Yeah,
it wasn't guns for hire. They weren't freelance. So you'd be staff, you paid a very low wage, but it enabled you to work on different formats of shows or transfer from True Hollywood Stories to Wild On, or in our case, from international to Wild On. And so I got a little taste of traveling internationally to do some shows that were only seen internationally. And I enjoyed it. I went to India and Egypt and China for Yanni's world tour. The new age artist Yanni.
Live at the Acropolis.
Yeah, live at the Acropolis, live at the pyramids, live at the Taj Mahal. And I was behind the scenes, and he had the flowing hair and the mustache. He was very big on the PBS drives. I remember that. My parents loved Yanni. It was the first time my dad was really proud that I was working at E! He's like, my son's working on Yanni's world tour. But then again, like you with True Hollywood Stories, it was Yanni. I want something more fun. But I wasn't seeking out Wild On. That just kind of came about organically. It was a carve out from the days when E! would go to Cannes and shoot the Cannes Film Festival. And John Reiber, in his infinite wisdom, John Reiber was kind of running programming at E, kind of as a more senior executive level, at Cannes a couple of years with Eleanor Mondale, Walter Mondale's daughter, the former vice president. And then she went to France and worked at the Cannes Film Festival. And then they shot these segments that they called Sex on the Riviera. That was a carve-out from E shooting the Cannes Film Festival. And so then they did Sex on the Beach, and that was a spinoff from Sex on the Riviera. These were little specials here and there. And at the international department, I would sometimes recut those for international. And I remember when we were in that department, you did not have to mosaic the nudity. Because internationally, it was okay to have women's breasts or people's behinds and whatever, full frontals sometimes. And so we got a little bit of a taste of what was going on over there in France, and how John Reiber wanted to expand the show, and then he changed it into Wild On, which was kind of an odd name, but they couldn't use sex on, let's say, Sex on the Bahamas or Sex on New Orleans, because my understanding was advertisers at E did not like having the word sex on preceding a show or in a show title. It would have been tough to sell that. And you had pointed out that E was doing a lot of like celebrity stuff, and the audience at E at the time in the 90s primarily was women during the day. It just skewed more women than men.
Yeah, it was all celebrity, it's fashion.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And this is the days before the Kardashians and all the reality stuff. It was more like actual fashion and news and movies. And then at night, though, when the Howard Stern show started, that was a big hit, on across the nation on FM radio. When the Howard Stern show started to have that televised on E at 11 o'clock each night, the highest ratings on E for the entire day were the Howard Stern show being televised at 11 o'clock. And then when Wild On started, really in earnest in 1998 with Jules Asner, Eleanor Mondale was off at that point, and Jules stepped in, which we can get into. That's when Wild On would sometimes come on right after Howard Stern, and it would pull in the second highest numbers of the day.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of men turning out at night,
right.
and women also, it turns out, when they really broke it down. But at 11 o'clock and 12 o'clock, those after hours is when E scored its best ratings. Yeah. And so I gradually moved from international over to Wild On at that point.
And then I think I just followed. I don't know. I don't remember like interviewing or doing anything for it. Scott was our boss in international, and then he went over.
Yeah.
Scott Woodward became the executive producer, and I was happy as a clam.
It was very fluid because again we were all staff.
No,
Yeah.
it's a-
And when they
it's a
needed
good point.
bodies, they needed a warm body in a show. They just throw you on a show.
For sure. And that's for our millions of listeners. No, but it's a good point. Most production, you are freelance. You are just a hired gun. You are on a production from, 10, 12, 15 weeks, whatever. But we were staff employees and we were there full time. And yeah, it was like a macro version of a production company. And you just kind of floated about. You're trying to find a new home, but you would work on shows for years. Mm-hmm. And but it had a sense. That place had a sense of a sort of familial sense to it.
Yeah.
Even it was a big place, but it felt like you knew kind of everybody. You knew everybody who worked down in the tape room. You knew all the IT guys. You kind of knew everybody in that company.
Yeah, it had the nickname E University.
Yeah,
Because-
definitely.
Yeah,
And
it was younger people. It felt like university. Again, we weren't paid much, but you had the camaraderie of working with people and also being kind of independent or self-sufficient. You had to write and produce your own shows, sit in the
sure.
edit bay, and it taught you responsibility. And, so you were entrusted with a lot of responsibility.
For sure, you wore every hat. And particularly
You wore every
on,
hat.
on this show, you had to. You were
your own production coordinator in the field,
Yes.
managing your own budget.
Yes.
And the budgets, they were nothing, but you had to be really resourceful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what our budgets were? I thought they were around like 25 to
It was
35.
25 grand, but that included post.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it didn't include
we
all
had-
everybody's salaries necessarily
Yeah,
in terms
exactly.
of the
Right, those
actual
were baked
production.
in.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I remember it was like fighting tooth and nail to get it bumped to $32,000 for 1 year. There were many
Yeah.
meetings I remember being in Scott Woodward's office where we were trying to get above that 30,000 threshold for a 1 hour show, a shot around the world.
Yeah.
And to air it, I mean, you talk about bang for your buck. And then that doesn't even get into the fact that, and again, I know we'll get into this, but you know, you don't have, if you, on a normal show, if you have a normal, well-known host, they're taking up most of your budget. So
sure.
our hosts, we had to pay virtually nothing.
Yeah.
Hair and makeup,
None.
security. That's the other thing I
Yeah.
was thinking about the other day. I was looking at
None.
all these photos, going through my photo albums, and looking.
What's security?
Right, and we're in some pretty tense environments, but yeah, just I remember scary places, and you know, and people just clamoring us and grabbing the cameras, grabbing the mics, and all that stuff. You know, and it's just me, cameraman, you know, Brooke. That was about it.
That was it. One thing I always
yeah.
said when we were out, that sun gun was an asshole magnet. It was like, and the light on top of the camera, we called it a sun gun because that was our only
Yeah.
lights. We didn't
Yeah.
come with
Yeah.
LEDs and one bys and all that other stuff. But like,
Yeah.
you would either get, it was two things. One, you'd get the assholes, the guys that were drunk, or you'd try to get the hottest girls ever in the club, and that was how you could, you know, that microphone carried weight. You know, at least because when we would go into the clubs, Brooke would do her stand-ups. She would do 2 or 3 interviews, and then it was like, okay, guys, check you later. And we would send her home, and then
Yeah.
we would stay and then go pick up all the other interviews with just holding the mic and you know, and get all that stuff. So
I remember going into some clubs and not wanting to turn on the sun gun on the camera, and I would tell the camera guy, "Can you please not turn that on? I want to. Let's just get this really organically before people, like you said, start like congregating toward us, like, oh, tea."
Yeah.
And you know, he's like, "Well, it's low light." I'm like, "It's okay," you know. And I try to find like a lit corner we could shoot that's already, you know, lit. But yeah, I agree with you. The dreaded sun gun.
What was your first Wild On though? Do you remember? that?
I believe my very first Wild On was Wild On Beantown, which I was super excited to do because I grew up in Boston.
I think it was,
So-
and I was SP at that point, supervisor producer, and I remember you were from Boston. I
Yeah.
thought this would be a good segue because
Yeah.
you know the town.
Exactly, and it was with Jules.
Yeah.
And I mean, not that it matters, it's 30 years later, but she was supposedly dating Nomar Garciaparra. Nomar! For all the Boston people.
And he was on the
He
Red
was on
Sox.
the Red Sox.
They live right down here in Manhattan Beach.
Do
now.
they really?
Yes.
Still.
So when I first bought my little side story, when I first bought my Ford Bronco, which is now like the car of South Bay in Los Angeles, it was like I had one of the first ones down here, and I see this guy walking past my car, tracking my keeps walking by my window. I'm waiting to pick up my daughter from soccer practice, and he walks by again. I'm just kind of looking at my phone. Finally, he comes right up to my window. He's like, "Hey, man. Can I ask you a question? Do you just love this car?" And I look, and it's Nomar Garciaparra.
Oh.
And I was like, "Yeah, I love it, man." I was like so excited to see him. Yeah.
That's so fun. He's married to Mia Hamm.
He's married to
Yeah.
Mia Hamm. So that's when you live in this town, to the listener, which is the fun part of this, is that you can coach your little league team. You're coaching against Nomar Garciaparra, and you're coaching, your daughter's AYSO soccer team. You're coaching against Mia Hamm.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of that. in
And
this
to
town.
that point,
Yeah.
the last Little League season I did with my son, playing Little League in Silver Lake, I was the co-coach with Casey Affleck.
It's a very
a lot
LA
more
thing.
moms were showing up in the stands at that time.
Yeah, yeah.
I was looking out for Uncle Ben, somewhere.
That's
funny.
funny.
Yeah.
But no, it was Wild on Beantown. But like we got ridiculous access to things that I
Including
would never
at
have
Fenway,
dreamt
right?
about. Yeah, we did a whole shoot at Fenway. They took us in, out, the roof, everywhere we wanted to go. We shot in the bleachers during a game, which is like unheard of now. They would never let you do
Never.
that. We did our stand-ups on the top of the Prudential building, which is, you know, not easy to get up to, and you know, the tallest building in Boston. And then, you know, the city just embraced us. Like there was the one place we shot at a lot was a pool hall called the Rack, and so they threw a couple parties for us, but they had all the Celtics there. And so one time when Jules was with us, and Walter McCarthy, who I think is like an assistant coach with Kentucky or wherever he is now, but he was also a singer. But he serenaded Jules in front of the whole place and gave her a Celtics jersey, and she just loved it, you know. And so it was a blast, and she was a sweetheart. You know, it was weird though because we were being chased by paparazzi at that time because of this Nomar rumor, and she wouldn't. I was like, just stop denying it. Like, they'll go away if you just tell them what's going on. She's like, no. So, but you know, it was a blast, and she was a sweetheart. But I feel like that was like the only show I really had done with her.
Yeah.
So
I never had my only interaction with Jules was after the fact when I ran into friends of hers in Vegas, and they said I think she partied too much the night before, and I told a friend of hers at work, and I got a call from Jules, and she basically chewed me out for sharing that story that I saw your friend, and allegedly she maybe had too much. She was served too much in Vegas, and she was feeling like, maybe she was still feeling some of that paparazzi heat.
Interesting.
Maybe. My first real shoot was Wild on Park City. It was the Sundance Film Festival that we went out, and this was the new millennium. So .com was everything, and .com was everywhere.
Yeah.
And there were huge parties. It was a lot of money. I mean, and they were actually kind of ahead of their time, before like Hulu and Netflix, ways of trying to like stream media, like Alta Vista and all these companies that are now gone. Mm-hmm. But it was a huge thing. And so Larissa and I went. Larissa was a producer with us. And Larissa was the master of trade out. She did trade outs better than anybody. And so she had done a trade out with the Stein Eriksen, which is a very nice resort in Deer Valley. It's right on the slopes. It probably goes for $1,000 a night, at least. Yeah. And so my very first shoot is in Park City on Main Street, this bar called The Spur, which is still a great bar. You should go there. And it's with Tiffany Granith because we don't have Brooke yet. Brooke's coming in later. And what I love about you, Paul, is that you're always like, what's the story here? Yeah. Which I don't think was the credo for many producers. On
yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so basically the story for this was we have a Playboy playmate. It's Tiffany Granith, who was a playmate. She was an awesome, beautiful redhead, but she had a personality. A lot of times we were given talent that, they're beautiful, they're, a lot of energy, but they can't talk. But she was great. Tiffany was fantastic. We used her many times. And basically the impetus of the shoot was we're going to go to this bar. We're going into a bar with the playmate. And so she starts ordering shots, passing around shots, and she starts flashing people who do a shot. And that becomes the segment. And Larissa's feeding me shots. And Tiffany's now flashing me on camera. And this is my first exposure. Like, I went to journalism school, There was no, we weren't told about this. There was no HR handbook. It was a different time.
Different world.
It was a different world. And it's also kind of the edict of the time. Everything was so hypersexualized. Like everything on TV, too hot for TV. All the DVDs, Jerry Springer, Cops.
Real Sex, HBO.
Right.
Yeah.
Spring Break,
Taxi
MTV.
Cab Confessions.
All that stuff.
Yeah.
And so she's flashing me, and I'm now in a 2-shot with Tiffany as I'm getting flashed, doing a shot. This is my first show with Wild On. And literally the expression on my face is not like, woo, spring break. It's like just embarrassment, like
terror.
Yeah, junior high kid with an erection, and it was just so awkward. But that was my kind of thrown into the fire. And Lucia was like, let's go, And we're doing shoots. We're the talent. We're bobsledding with the.
Because you're thinking like a producer, I need to bring back content.
That's in the back of my head. Like I went to journalism school. I worked in news stations, and I'm like, what am I coming back with? And all of a sudden we're now appearing in these segments, and so, it was her show, so it wasn't like she was kind of set all these things up, but it was such a wild experience. But anyway, so Jules was the host at this time. When did you get word that she was going to be leaving or transitioning out?
Yeah, Jules was the host when Wild On really found its footing and started, really finding an audience. And she came out of doing segments for E! News, and she had a journalistic background. She also had a modeling background. And she liked to tell me that the only reason I'm on the show is because they're already paying me, and I'm working for E! News, and they said they need someone who looks good in a bikini for doing stand-ups on the beach, in Miami Beach or Ibiza or whatever. But she was really good, and she was smart. She was approachable. She was likable by women and men. She kind of had a Sandra Bullock vibe. I really enjoyed working with her. My very first shoot with her, the first shoot that was under the Wild On name was Wild On New Orleans, or Wild On Mardi Gras, I think it was. And then she and I went to the Bahamas, to the Greek islands, to the Caribbean, eventually Rome, and we knocked out a bunch of shows. And she loved it, but she was anxious to get back into more real journalism. And she was up to be the co-host on E! News. with Steve Kometko, and E! News was pretty popular at the time. I mean,
Yeah,
celebrities would watch it. Celebrities were watching her on Wild On too, because then we'd come back and then she'd see me in the hallway or email me. And she's like, "I just saw Tom Cruise on the red carpet." And he's like, "Jules, I just saw you in Greece or something. You're dancing on a table. I was laughing so hard I almost crapped my pants, you know." And like Dennis Leary was a fan. He's like, "I want all the tapes with you sent to my office." And then Oprah Winfrey was a fan, and there were a number of people who were Mark Wahlberg or something. So it was finding an audience, and that elevated her profile. And I think it actually helped her get the E! News job because she had more visibility from Wild On.
Right.
And she was happy to go to E! News by June of '99 so that she could continue her career as a journalist. And, there's only so many bathing suits you can wear and be taken seriously after a while, probably in her eyes.
Sure.
But that left a gaping hole of who's going to be the next host of Wild On.
Right.
And that coincided around the time that I was promoted to the supervising producer of the series. So I was called into Scott Woodward's office one day, and he's like, "So you need to find a host. Jules is gone, and we need to pay them virtually nothing.
Right.
Good luck." Yeah.
Yeah.
And that is kind of sets up how Brooke Burke came into the picture. When I was doing the shoots with Jules, one of the places we visited was the Bahamas, and we did Wild in the Bahamas. I think I contacted Venus Swimwear because they were like the big swimwear company in Florida. And the guy who's organizing the models for the shoot was this really gregarious guy, Lou Maggio. And he did these funny impressions of Brando on the phone with me, and he just sounded like a real fun guy. So he's like, "Look, I'm gonna set you up. We're gonna do a nice shoot for you. It's in the Exumas. It'd be like there's gonna be iguanas and snorkeling, and I got some models. It's gonna be great." I'm like, "Okay, this sounds amazing." And we took off from the Bahamas. He chartered a boat. There were 4 models, one of whom was Leanne Tweeden, another Carol Grow. They became pretty popular, and they were all swimwear models for Venus Swimwear that Lou was helping manage. And he was getting the women from not even modeling agencies, again, because he wouldn't be able to afford them. He would just do grassroots model searches. And Brooke was one of his models, not in the Bahamas, but I knew that Lou had a good eye. He was very good at finding women who were good in front of a camera, not just for photographs, but they could do host wraps for me, and they could carry a segment. They could go, chasing iguanas on a beach in the Exumas and say funny things. They could be produced. They were producible.
Right.
And so that's when I realized, okay, we have to remember Lou because he found some really good talent. And so that kind of tees up, he and I kept in touch. And so by June of '99, I told Scott, it's like, let me try Lou because he probably knows some people in Los Angeles who could work as the next host.
All right, let's meet the man himself. Let's say hello to Lou Maggio. Lou, how are you doing? Good to see you.
Welcome to sunny Florida.
We're just talking about, you're the man that basically brought Brooke Burke to us. Can you just give us the origin stories of that? And basically your origin story as well.
How you came across Brooke.
Right.
Well, I was a director of photography and marketing for Venus Swimwear. We were a very small company. At the time, we weren't even hiring big, fashion models. So we would get girls, younger girls, or would send their pictures in, or we had contests. And Brooke had sent me her picture. She had just moved to LA from Tucson, and I think she was going there on an acting scholarship that turned out to be bogus. So she sent me her pictures, and when we came out to do a shoot, I hired her. And we took her out we shot down in San Diego. And she was magic, man. I mean, you've seen her. I mean, and I go, oh boy, I hit this one good. And back then we had Leanne Tweeden with us at the time. And Leanne had just gotten started, and Carol Grow and a few other girls. But Brooke was a very unique look, very unique. And she's just a very unique person, so.
And so I was just telling Sean and Cary how we were kind of entrusted to find a new host when Jules Asner moved over to E! News as the host. And so my first phone call after meeting with the executives was you. And I said, Lou, I need a favor. We need a new host, and I need someone who's LA-based who would be interested in hosting Wild On, and someone who, would be affordable to us, but also has the ability to grow into this role of becoming a full-fledged host for Wild On. And do you remember what you said to me?
Yeah, I had a head turner for you for sure. I definitely had the right girl. First of all, I was kind of shocked when you said affordable, because let's face it, guys, you guys all back in the day. What I admired about E was A, you cannot spell cheap without E. We all
Yep, that was the slogan. You beat me to it, Lou. You beat me to
was
it.
the thing. So when you said affordable, I knew I wasn't going to make any money. Then I looked at you almost killed one of my models, Regina, in the Bahamas when you
Yeah.
had her ride the horses on the Bahamas beach and she got thrown off. I said, okay, this better be good.
Seemed
But,
like a good idea at the time.
I think first of all, I want to go out and do a sidebar. All you guys were so great because he had a great system, but people don't know us. Like I said, they hired all you guys for nothing.
Yes.
Up and coming guys that really wanted to make it and get your reel, and they sold you on that. And so young guy get to travel to Bahamas and all around the world and get your reel made, and we get to make all the money. So they're pretty shrewd about that.
Yeah.
But well, you had met Leanne already, and
Yeah.
I did all the hiring for Venus, so I kind of knew what you were looking for. Because I met Jules, and you and I talked about it. So you told me, give me three names, and I said I'm going to give you three names, and I'm going to tell you which one you're going to pick. And I gave you, and the other two are great, by the way. So it's nothing against them because you've actually used them both in the past for different shows. But I gave you Leanne Tweed, and I gave you Carol Grow, and I said there's the third one's Brooke Burke.
Yeah.
And I said, that's the one you're going to get. And I said, why? You asked me why. And I said, well, I kept telling you, I said, well, Leanne and Carol walk into a room and every guy's head turns around. And I told you, I said, but when Brooke Burke walks in the room, every guy and every girl's head spins.
Yes, you said she
Completely.
was a head spinner was your term. I said, all right, let's. I knew Leanne already, and I knew Carol already because I had shot with them in the Bahamas last November, and so Brooke was the wild card. I'd never met her, and so I said, okay, great. Well, I'd love to arrange.
I had to beg her to go in. I had to
Right.
beg her to go.
Yeah.
I call
Yeah.
her, so I call her. I said, Brookie, I said, listen, I got an audition for you. She goes, what? Well, they're looking for a host for Wild On. She goes, I'm not a host. I'm a model, and I'm not going to be doing that. And I said, oh, for God's sakes, please, I can make some money off this, please. You guys are killing me. So she goes, no, I'm not going to do it. So I said, listen, she loves shoes. And I said, listen, go down there, meet the guys, see what they say. If it doesn't work out, I'll buy you a pair of shoes. And she goes, you promise? I said, I never broke a promise to you in the past. So as I recall, because you called me right afterwards, she showed up in a pair of ripped jeans, a Calvin Klein regular white T-shirt, and a pair of Chuck Taylor Chucks, tennis shoes.
Yeah.
And I think she was there like 15 minutes, and you call me and you go, she's effing amazing. Oh my God, we got to have her. I said, I told you.
Well, I
like,
remember there would be at E, if someone attractive showed up, there would be emails between employees, lobby alert or something, And so I remember heads popping out of offices when she walked down the hall. That was a good sign, I guess. And then we had to see how she was interviewing people. And so I arranged with the camera crew that we had there. It was very cheap. We went for like just 2 hours. I probably jumped onto an E! News crew and said, can I borrow them for a couple hours at no extra cost? And
well, she wasn't taking it serious. She didn't take it serious at all. I mean,
well,
she was getting a pair of shoes out of the damn thing. And that was something.
She was very green.
Wild.
I thought that, but she was very sweet and approachable, and people really liked her at Venice Beach, at Muscle Beach. We went down to Muscle Beach and had her interviewing all these bodybuilders, and just some of them were flirting with her, and she's like, flirting back, and she had a good rapport with people. You could see there was a sweetness to her, and that was very important.
You said the magic word. You said the magic word, approachable.
Yeah.
When I used to hire a model, my big thing was when you're selling swimwear to women, you don't want to intimidate them. So the girl, all these other lingerie companies and all, very sexy type girls, but some of them look like strippers. So I said, we're selling our swimsuits to women. So I want this girl to be hot, but I want her to be approachable. I want her to be the girl that you look at and say, oh my God, that's that really nice girl that was a homecoming queen and she was so wonderful on the committee. And not the slut stripper-looking chick that stole my boyfriend. And that just doesn't work. People are not going to buy stuff from you. So
Yeah, that was smart.
and that was Brooke, and that was Brooke, and Brooke was just, I mean, she did a great job.
She was
Yeah.
thrown
I mean,
right into the
her
frying
career-
pan. I mean,
Yeah.
from the moment that we hired her, it was about 6 weeks before we sent her to Spain to do her first shoot.
You hit the nail on the head, though, and you guys both said, which is approachable, which is the word I was going to say with Brooke as well. She is just, it's effortless how welcoming she is. And I think that is part of her allure is just introducing her to anybody. And whenever, introduced her to friends or just even the people we do Man on the Street with, she was always very welcoming. And
And you feel
of
like
course,
you've known her forever.
for completely. And,
I mean,
you
you
know,
feel like
it-
she's your best friend.
for sure. And she,
I mean,
of course,
she
she's
does.
drop dead gorgeous, but the same thing that she's just, and she'll touch you and just be like, oh, hi. And she's very welcoming, give you a hug. All of that just came with it as well, which I think was to her success.
Yeah.
And it's all real. I
Yeah,
have to
for
tell
sure.
you,
When I think of when I look at the Venus Swimwear catalogs, the women are all smiling, and someone had this
and
analogy
they're all
once.
making more than I was towards the end. Okay, that's why they were smiling. He's
Someone-
my boss,
someone
and I
pointed out
just
this is
make a
kind of-
shitload- I'm making a shitload more money than he is.
Someone pointed out this
Sorry.
funny analogy that the higher up an item is, whether it's clothing or jewelry, and the models who are modeling them, it could be men or women, the more expensive they are, the more you see frowns and really austere looks from the models.
That's interesting.
And if it's something, let's say it's Venus Swimwear, not to compare you to like Target or like some of the more affordable Ross or whatever it is, or even like just something that's more affordable for people, the models are all cheerful and
Right.
happier. And so we were kind of aspiring maybe for something in between.
Right.
It was
Well,
both.
I think the reason that was I never hired two models that looked alike. We were on. If you ever looked at our catalog, they're all gorgeous. I mean, I was very, very blessed. I mean, two things. If pardon my French, if you were a bitch, I wasn't going to hire you. If you're going to be difficult on the set because I'm paying you good money and we took very good care of them. They went to great resorts. You look at Rachel Reynolds, who's still on Price is
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We were her first job. We were actually, I gave Brooke her first tear sheets, and Carol Grow. I mean, Leanne Tweeden was 18 years old. Her first job was up with us in the Bahamas, and I was, I'm still very close with most of them.
I was very Leanne Tweeden, who's gone on to do a lot of radio and did stuff for Fox Sports
I'd worked
and
with her.
even
She's
Carol.
great.
Yeah, she's the one who I noticed always reading a book in the corner. So I actually, to Scott Woodward, I thought, Brooke is fantastic, but Leanne you can't go wrong with her either.
Yeah.
Or Carol. And like you said, we actually had Carol host a show that Cary and I did, which was
Search Party.
where she hosted Search Party for
yeah.
E and then Wild on Japan, Wild on the Rising Sun.
Yeah, the Rising Sun.
Carol hosted because Brooke was pregnant or just had her baby, her first child.
Right.
So, we dipped into the Venus talent pool, several times because of you. So,
Yeah.
are you, by the way, did you ever get your finder's fee check in the mail? You still
No.
waiting?
Yeah, no, I got. I'm still waiting on that one.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Well,
it's in the
it was
mail. I'm sure.
great.
Yeah.
What was the crazy guy that did Girls Gone Wild?
Art Man.
No, Joe Francis.
Joe
I gotta tell you
Francis.
my favorite. Well, I gotta tell you my favorite Wild On story because I had bumped in Joe Francis. So anyway, we're shooting on the beach in Daytona Beach, and we're doing Wild On spring break. And I guess Joe Francis had just got arrested. And he had his whole entourage, and I had met him one time at the Playboy Mansion, so I wasn't real fond of him anyway. So we're shooting on the beach, and the cops come up to us and say, "You guys can't shoot here." I said, "Excuse me." Well, we're shooting for Wild On. Well, we don't like those videos you guys do of girls. I said, no. This is Wild On. This is not Girls Gone Wild. Oh, okay, that's fine. Go ahead. So
Yeah.
that night, Joe's bus is pulling into our same hotel, and I'm coming back from dinner. Our photographer, and he's coming in, and he goes, "Hey, what's going on, dude?" I said, "Joe, they're waiting for you." And so he goes, "Everybody's waiting for me." I said, "No, you asshole. The cops are waiting for you."
Lou, we got limited time here. We're on the clock, but we're so appreciative of you jumping on, man, and really
thank you.
It
good
was
to
fun,
talk to you.
man. It was like I would say going down memory road, but it's on a beach somewhere. You know, it's always on a beach somewhere.
Nice.
Evidently, but
Good
I can't believe they
memeries
actually paid me to do that.
and good ties that you're still in touch with them too. That's
awesome.
that's really great.
I'll tell them. Have you talked to Brooke at all?
I'm actually seeing her next week. I've run
You
into her
ever
just
met
on
this?
different shows, but I'm seeing her next Friday.
Well, she's doing an amazing job on that Penn and Teller show.
Yeah.
She's
Yeah.
so good. I mean, it's I have all kind of I have all kind of funny stories. She's just such a great person
Yeah.
and does so much. So all of them. I was blessed to work with some good people, including you guys. So it's always fun, man.
Oh, right back
It ain't
at
over
you.
yet,
Yeah.
man.
Yeah. Thank you.
Hey, come back anytime.
Appreciate
Yeah,
it, Lou.
in Tampa.
Right on.
Yeah, for sure.
All right, guys.
Thanks,
I had
Lou.
good times
man.
in Tampa.
Take care.
Take care, Lou.
Thank
Thanks,
you.
Bye-bye.
Lou.
Bye.
I thought he was bald and much heavier.
He
So-
was much heavier.
Okay.
I thought he looked great. You know,
Yeah, he
he-
looks great, but
he's gotten younger. He's gotten older.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
very
looks.
big.
I was like,
Yeah.
wait, because I remember just a bigger guy, and I didn't even do that many Venus. I think I did
Yeah,
one
yeah.
Venus shoot.
cool. Anything else
Yeah.
we talk about? We should probably wrap it up.
Yeah. No,
Yeah, it's good.
Next time, Wild On gets even more wild. We're revealing tales of our weirdest and wildest experiences producing the show. I'll tell you where you can do shots of pink ouzo at a pink-themed toga party and how to properly navigate the Greek Isles with a coked-out boat captain. Next time on the wildest show on Earth, the rise and fall of Wild On.